Um, okay, so we've all heard of mindset, right? And a mindset is how you're thinking. Okay, so when you're in a positive mindset, then you tend to be resourceful. And when you are in a positive mindset and you're more resourceful, then you're more likely to act positively. If the reverse happens, that's also true, where if you're in a negative mindset and you have like a lack of resources for your mindset, then you're more likely to act negatively, right? Yeah. So I want you guys, I'm going to have you picture this. So I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to give you two different scenarios for having this positive mindset that's resourceful versus having a negative mindset. Okay. All right. So go ahead and close your eyes. I want you to imagine that you're in a great space with your romantic partner. And if you don't have one, just imagine you have a romantic partner. Okay. And I want you to imagine this partner is just absolutely wonderful. Okay. You are feeling so in love and you are so grateful for this relationship that you have with your partner. And your partner comes to you and says, hey, I've got a problem and I could really use your help. Can you help me? How are you likely to respond? What was that? You're more likely to be positive, right? And you probably are willing to help and you'll probably say like, sure, what's up? What can I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so now I want you to close your eyes again. And I want you to imagine this other scenario. Okay, so you just had a really bad day at work. And on the way home, you realize just how unfair life has been. You know, certain people at your job have been taking credit for your ideas on different projects that you're working on. And you're just sick and tired of feeling like you are being taken advantage of. Okay. And your thoughts suddenly turn to your romantic partner. And you think, you know, come to think of it, my partner can be unfair too. And then all of a sudden you start having all of these memories of past injustices between you and your partner. And they start kind of going through your mind, they're accumulating. And so then you start to wonder, is everyone in the world trying to use me? So you arrive home, imagine you get home, imagine you walk in the door and your partner says, hey, I've got a problem and I could use your help. Can you help me? In your current state of mind, how are you likely to respond?
Badly. Like, you know, I mean, for me, I feel like I would be, there's something wrong with our relationship and I would take it negatively and forget it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
been in this situation where,
Okay.
like, it's just I'm being pulled in every direction and I'm being taken advantage of, and then yeah, it exacerbates like other relationships. Like, what he does some things similar to that too. So I think I would help him, but inside it would be reluctantly,
Uh-huh.
and like on the inside I'd be like, is this like for real? Does he really need my help? Or is this just another one of those times that he's like sticking it to me or trying to like use me somehow? And then I'd bring it up later when I was calmer, because if I brought it up then I'd be like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And I would just snap at them probably. I'd be like, I probably would help too, but I'd be in a very foul mood while I'm doing it. So it'd be very unpleasant for both of us.
Yeah. So you can see the difference, you know, and how our mindset is like everything, you know, right? So if you have a positive mindset and you have a positive outlook, then how you react, how you respond, how you behave follows with that positive mindset. And the reverse is true, that we just did that scenario. So we all understand like, oh, I need to have a positive mindset. Like we hear that a lot, but when you truly understand that your mindset, how your mindset works and how important the frame of mind that, you're in, it not only helps you to recognize how this affects your behavior, right? But it also helps you to realize that you are in control of your mindset, regardless of what your situation is. So, in other words, this leads to a change in your mindset so that a positive behavior becomes more obvious. And not only that, but easier to do.
Mhm.
So if you have something that you are trying to accomplish, like you have a behavior that you're trying to change, when you understand how the mindset works, you understand that it starts with your mindset.
Mm.
Okay. So our behavior is largely determined by the mental and emotional states that we access at any given time. So that those two scenarios, we accessed the positive mindset and the negative one, right? I took you guys through such a quick exercise, and that taught you that you actually are in control. You have access to the kind of mindset that you're going to adopt. So
Mhm.
if we look at these mental and emotional states, frustration and relaxation, okay, for example, are very different emotional states, right? And they elicit very different behaviors or reactions to similar situations. So if someone's frustrated and then somebody else is relaxed and they are in the exact same situation and scenario, they're both going to have very different reactions because of the state that they're in.
Mhm.
One thing to just note that I think is really important is that our flexibility in our behavior, comes from you having the skill and the knowledge to access a very large variety of different mental and emotional states for mind. Who's heard of emotional intelligence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a really pretty picture, Vicki.
Yeah.
Okay. So emotional intelligence, okay, it requires the ability to make distinctions between all these different states, so the more states or the different mindsets that you can access at will, meaning like you're in control of it, the more emotionally intelligent you are. I want to say this again because I studied emotional intelligence several years, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago when I was first exposed to it. And what I really learned from that the most is emotional intelligence means that you are very in tuned to your own emotions, but you're also in tune to somebody else's emotions. But the more states and mindsets that you can access internally for yourself, the more emotionally intelligent you are. So emotional intelligence has its own set of like vocabulary. It's like linguistic vocabulary. So like for an example, we know what good means, we know what bad means, we know what mad means, and we know what glad means. Okay, so if you are relying on those emotional states as like your go-to, then all of your experiences, which really is your reality, right? Because I might be reacting differently to a situation compared to how you might react. So if I'm feeling good or bad or mad or glad, right? And those are pretty much the only mindsets, the only emotional states that I kind of weave in and out of the most. Okay, then my experiences are going to be very generalized to just those few categories. right? But imagine if you had like hundreds or thousands of different states at your disposal. So in order to work on your mindset, we have to work on self-awareness.
Yep.
Okay, and a lot of us think that we have self-awareness, but a lot of us don't realize that we're running on autopilot. Okay, so let me ask you guys, how would you describe, like, what is self-awareness?
Well, I think a lot of like what you were saying, like being in control of what is happening and how you're reacting to it. You know, I just a year ago went back to teaching, and I teach 4-year-olds, and 4-year-olds, they've never been to school before. So they don't know how to behave in a classroom. They don't understand like that there's rules, like this is where they're first learning it. So I have to be very aware of my what was the words again?
Self-awareness?
Yes, I have to be very self-aware of how I'm handling it, you know, like, because if I get all frazzled because they're running amok, they don't know they're running amok. They're just being kids. But if I get frazzled, then they're going to get frazzled. And there are days that maybe I'm tired or I'm really happy or whatever. And I do see the impact that it has on them. So it's just, I don't know, it's just being just very aware of like what's going on around you and how like different moods are affecting like the overall environment.
So
And to jump in, it's almost like that, you know, read the room. Are you, you know, behaving appropriately or reacting appropriately really to the situation at hand? And I mean, you know, with teaching, same thing, Jenny, like are you kidding me? You know, when I teach 8th graders and it's like, holy shit, like, where are you guys coming from? But again, their emotional development and everything is so different, but it is like, you know, why am I reacting so, you know, or being so reactionary with things where it's like, okay, Cal, that was inappropriate to react like that. And why am I acting inappropriately versus acting the appropriate way?
yeah. So it's basically what you guys have said is correct. So, but I found this definition that I thought was such a great definition. And the definition is, I'm going to read it. Self-awareness is when you increase your knowledge of inner experience, which influences the impact of your responses to that inner experience. So you're increasing your knowledge of your inner experience. And so often, like, how many times do we feel something and just react versus like, wait a minute, let me try to fully understand, you know, what this inner experience is that's going on, right? And then when you do that step, then it's going to influence how you react and how you respond. And clearly, if you are reacting and responding in an emotionally intelligent way, that could have a positive impact on whoever it is that you're responding to. So, okay, what would you guys say would be like the purpose of improving self-awareness? Like, why is that something we should do?
Like better communication if it involves others, better self-regulating your own emotions because you're understanding them and you are attending to them. I just feel like it's a better, it just helps like with your like inner peace, inner balance, and then also like your communication with others, how to express what you're feeling inside or how to express, you know, whatever you're hearing from them. If they're bringing something to you, you know, they may be expressing something that I upset them with. And so if I'm, you know, self-regulating and I'm aware of my own, all that, then I can better respond to them. And again, it's that form of communication that it's going to be improving.
Yeah.
And I think you're just healthier in general. And, you know, it's not the, you know, instead of being reactionary, you know, I feel like sometimes I'm assuming that this is what's going to happen or it has happened. And it's not really, that's not the occurrence. It's like, you know, Kelly, you know, really, see what exactly are they explaining instead of just assuming, oh, this is what's going to happen or what has happened or.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I've learned, and all of this is great definitions. But if you were to sum up, the main purpose of improving self-awareness is for the purpose of giving you more choice,
Yeah. Makes
right?
sense.
Because when you are aware and you have the knowledge of what's going on with you internally, right? And then you are able to process that, then you're able to think more clearly, and then you can see all the choices that are available to you. Because whether or not, you think this is the case, right? Many of the choices that we make are on an unconscious level. Like, we are operating on autopilot more so than I think you realize. Especially when you have a same reaction that is typical. Like, you start to see like a pattern, right? And so when you see this pattern, that means that you're on autopilot. So you're not always aware of like what your inner motivation is, like why you're reacting the way you're reacting. And so expanding this, self-awareness gives you enough insight to get off autopilot. And then it also helps you to experience different elements of yourself that might not have occurred to you that was there.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I just find this like so interesting, because like, she was saying about, people being reactive or, and it's like, and I had learned, I had this boss who I used to call, I would say he was like a high school bitch. Like he was very reactive. He would just react and then think later. And
Yeah.
then like come to you and be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it would frustrate me because I'm like, why couldn't he hold on to that reaction and then think it through? And then I started realizing, like I'm sometimes reactionary too. Like sometimes I do respond with emotion. And so I started trying to practice or teaching myself to practice, like think first or absorb it first, process it first, like, because most often, like what you're saying, like with all these choices that you allow yourself to have later on is like, I wind up realizing that my first reaction is not what I have concluded later after I've thought about it and processed it. So I can now address the whatever more clear-minded and thought through. So I've been like teaching myself, like, if it's gonna be like a knee jerk, like it gives me this emotion inside, like don't respond.
Yeah.
I'm perfect with that, but it's like what you're saying, because that's just your emotion. That's not your like really thinking it through, the impact of XYZ, the ripple effect and everything. So
Yeah, totally.
interesting.
Yeah. When you calm
And
down and then you're like, oh my gosh, when you replay it in your mind, you're like, oh, why didn't I do it this way? Or why didn't I say that? Or, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have been, Jenny, I've been that person, that reactionary person.
Hmm.
And when I look at it and I think to myself that I never was really taught how to not be reactionary. And I do that. I react and then oh my God, I can't believe it was like that. I've apologized to students before, because of and it's really, it's horrible. It's that knee-jerk reaction, like you were saying. I do it, and then I'm like, Kelly, oh, why did you do that? So that definitely has been a learned behavior for me, and I'm trying to break that learned behavior. Yeah, which
Yeah.
I do not like that. So
Okay. So to break this behavior, I have 3 steps, 3, yeah, 3, that can help you know, first of all, when you need to tap into self-awareness, right? Because there's times where you're going to need to increase your self-awareness more than others. And the 3 obvious ones are whenever you find yourself saying, I don't know. That's one. If you find yourself saying, I don't know, like, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Okay. That's your first indication that you're not in self-awareness. You're not in
Okay.
that state.
Hmm.
The second one is whenever you find yourself in a situation where you're on autopilot, okay, like we just talked about, and you are unaware of your motives or the impact that your autopilot response is having on other people. And then the third one is when you can't see the choices that are available to you. You know, if you feel like kind of almost like in that state of panic, like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the crap. When something
Yeah.
looks bleak, when something looks maybe feels hopeless, you know, or feels overwhelming and stressful, and you just don't even know where to begin, that means you can't see the choices and the options that are available to you. And that means you are not operating from a state of self-awareness. So, you know, NLP teaches these building blocks. They call them the modalities, where we can tap into this internal experience that we're having. And it's incredible how many different techniques and different ways that we could actually tap into self-awareness and look at our internal experiences. So, submodalities, they don't refer to like what we're thinking, okay? It's referring to how we're thinking about the thing that we're thinking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Because the quality of our thoughts has a lot of influence over our behaviors, right? And so we know this because if you think, you know, this is going to be too overwhelming, this just really sucks, then it puts you in a state of mind that's negative. So if you have someone who's coming to you with ideas, you're more likely to respond with shooting them down, right? Whereas if you have them a positive mindset and you're realizing, okay, I'm becoming very self-aware of how I'm feeling and what my inner experience is. And therefore you're like, okay, I want to work on this. And you're more positive about it. When someone comes to you with some ideas, you're more likely to be open and receptive and listen to them.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. So what I am going to share my screen again, because I do want, I'm going to give you the highlight of all these different techniques. So we talked about the mindset, and we talked about, you know, self-awareness and how important self-awareness is. Okay. And to kind of recap, we're understanding what self-awareness is, right? It's when you increase your knowledge of your own inner experience. We understand that the purpose of it is so that you realize you have more choices that are available to you. All right. And then whenever you want to break the autopilot pattern, you do that whenever you realize you are saying, I don't know, when you realize that you're just automatically reacting, and when you don't see the available choices to you. Okay. And so the more states and mindsets that you access at will, like we talked about, the more emotional intelligence that you have. And so these building blocks, these submodalities that we are talking about, that NLP teaches. All right. So like I said, this is a lot. So we're not going to go through all of these, but the first transformation techniques is building these inner resources, and you can do it through these 7 different submodalities, different building blocks. So accessing states is a building block. Association and disassociation is a building block. We've talked a little bit about association and dissociation before. Kelly, I don't know if you were in any of those workshops before, but if not, it's okay, because I'm always going to be talking about that. Anchoring is another one. Generating new behaviors, decision strategies, motivation strategies, and the quad map. The quad map is pretty cool. I will eventually teach the quad map as well. But this is just the first transformation technique that is available. And then the second one, it has to do with your past and your future when it comes to you setting goals. Like you have to look at the past, and then you have to be able to project to the future when setting goals. And then when you do that, these four building blocks have to kind of come into play. You have to do outer specification, introduction to a timeline. You go through this as if mindset framing exercise. That's pretty fun. And then a formula for how to actually manifest. But we're not going to focus on that today. The third one is cultivating self-awareness. And that is what I'm focusing on today, is self-awareness. And so there are three submodalities for this third transitional step. And VAC stands for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. What's really cool about that is when you learn that, you can pay attention to when you talk. Like, sometimes you talk and you like maybe are looking up to the right, or when you talk, you're looking down, or maybe you're like looking to the side, right? You know how that happens? That is VAC. That is you tapping into visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, where if you're talking about something and you are picturing something in your mind, you're going to look in a certain direction. If you're talking about an experience and you're remembering something that actually happened before, you're going to look in a different direction. And if you are trying to talk about something and you're tapping into your feelings and your emotions, then you're going to look in another direction that signifies kinesthetic. So it's really fascinating stuff. And then you have perceptual positions. And that's the one we're going to actually do tonight. That's the one that we're going to try out that exercise. So we're going to come back to that. And then there's 12 states of attention. And then the fourth transformation technique is when you feel stuck, where it's basically where you're like, gosh, why can't I get this right? Or I keep having this goal and I can't reach this goal. Like I'm always self-sabotaging myself, it seems like, and why can't I get there, right? So that means like you're stuck. And so when you're in that specific stage, then you have all these other submodalities. Anchor collapse is different than just anchoring. You have mapping across submodalities that you can do. There's a standard swish pattern. There's a fast phobia cure. There's reframing, and then there's a 6-step reframe. And so the reason why I'm studying NLP is because there's just so many really cool tools at your disposal, that because one tool may work for you in one scenario, but maybe it won't work for you in another. And so having this knowledge of how to tap into different ones, especially when you practice them, then you'll remember them. And when you're in a situation, you're going to be like, I'm going to try the anchoring collapse, submodality in this situation, right? And so like, this is why I can't cover this all in one workshop, but this is just to open up and expand your mind to like, there is so much out there that's available to help you in life. And a lot of people aren't aware of it, let alone tapping into it. Okay. All right. So this next exercise that we're going to do, it's another visual. Okay. And so what I want you guys to do again is close your eyes. Okay. So what I want you to imagine as we're going to do perceptual positions is I want you to imagine that there is a hungry lion that is 1,000 feet away from you. Okay. Just kind of picture how that looks to you. Picture what kind of emotions and feelings you might have. Okay. All right. Now I want you to imagine the hungry lion is 3 feet in front of you. Has something changed?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So what is the difference between the lion that was 1,000 feet away versus 3 feet away?
3 feet away, they can get me quickly without me being able to, get out of the way. Yeah,
Mhm.
well, I don't have time to react and think about what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. So like what emotions, were you feeling as you were imagining that?
Oh, like petrified with fear if they're 3 feet away. Like, I think I would just freeze and not know
Yeah.
what to do. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Whereas if they were 1,000 feet away, would you be more resourceful? Would you be able to kind of figure out what you could do to be safe?
I think I'd still be in a panic, but at least like I would assume that I would have the wherewithal to at least like look around to see if I have an escape. But if
Right.
they're like right there, I would just be like, I'm done.
Right,
Mhm.
and just give
Yeah.
up, just, okay, go ahead, just take me, because, they're gonna be a lot faster than I am, for sure,
Yeah.
and a lot
Yes.
ferocious. Yeah,
Yeah. So your perception of the situation has a significant impact on how you respond and how you behave, right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do another exercise. All right. So we're going to close your eyes again. Okay. So I'm going to paint a whole scenario for you guys. All right. And so you're just going to have fun with this. I want you to think of a mildly pleasant experience, such as walking on the beach. Okay. So imagine yourself on the beach walking, and it's really necessary for this experiment that you choose to have elements that represent the VAC system, which is visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Okay, so for example, as you are imagining walking on the beach, I want you to look down and I want you to see the light brown sand near your feet. Just pay attention to the grains of the sand and the colors that you might see. Maybe you're seeing some seashells. And as you're walking through the sand, you're going to look up and you're going to look at the ocean. And you can hear the sound of the waves crashing and hitting the shore. And then you notice the blue sky. It is such a beautiful day. The sun is out and the clouds are beautiful. And then you hear seagulls. I want you to actually hear the seagulls. And then you hear laughter of children playing around nearby. And while you're noticing all of this and hearing all this, while you're feeling this pleasure, you just have this appreciation for your life. Now we're going to keep your eyes closed. We're going to change some modalities, okay, with this experience. Okay, we're just going to explore how we can tap into different submodalities, all right, from these 3 different categories: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. All right, so this is an opportunity where you're going to learn something new, where you're going to learn how to build your internal experience by being flexible. All right. And I want you to notice, as I say some of these things, I just want you to notice kind of what is happening inside of you. All right. So as you're on the beach, I want you to visualize that there is a child sitting in the sand, building a sandcastle. And you're noticing the pail. You're noticing it's bright yellow. But now I want you to take that bucket and I want you to enlarge it. And you're going to make it bigger. And you're going to make it even bigger. You're going to make it bigger than the child's body. It is the same height as this child. Now you're going to make it wider and thicker. And as you continue to play with this bucket, I want you to make it so big that it is twice the size of his father next to him. Now you're making him even taller. What does that do to you? How does that change your experience on the beach? You don't have to answer right now. I just want you to think about this. Okay, now I want you to make the bucket smaller and smaller and smaller. I want you to make it so small that it looks like a miniature bucket that you would put in a dollhouse. Sit with that and imagine the bucket being that size. It's so small, it's the size of a postage stamp. What happens? What happens with everything that you are noticing at the beach now that this bucket is so small? What happens to your feelings? Did it change between when the bucket was super big to now it's the size of an item in a dollhouse? The next thing I want you to notice now is the sound of the seagulls. And as you're listening to the seagulls, I want you to increase the sound of the seagulls. Increase it more. Continue to make it louder. Imagine that the seagulls are like hooked up to amplifiers, and it is so loud that it feels like an earthquake every time they chirp. Imagine that the sound is so loud that it hurts your eardrums. What is happening? What's your experience like? How are you feeling? What are you noticing? Okay, now I want you to turn down the volume. The seagulls' noise is so soft, you can barely even hear them. You see them opening their beaks, but there's just no sound coming out. Now I want you to notice the sky, how blue the sky is. And all of a sudden, the sky turns gray, dark gray. Everything around you gets dark. You went from this bright, sunny day to it is the total opposite. It is really dark and it's getting darker and darker. It's getting so dark, you can't really see in front of you. What happens? What happens to your feelings as you play around with the darkness of the sky? Okay, you can open your eyes. So when you change a submodality at a time and you go to like one extreme to the next and you isolate the effects and the experience, what do you notice when you did that?
I felt stressed at times, very uncomfortable with certain things, and others questioning why, like when you were talking about the bucket, why is it so tiny? What are they doing? And it's, you know, and when you have a normal size bucket, okay, but then when you have this little tiny one, it's going to take you so long. And I wasn't as much concerned about that as this huge bucket. And it was, for me, it was in my way, like, get it out of the way. I can't go walking. What the hell is going on with that huge bucket? So it's kind of like that extreme. It's, you know, yeah, it's weird. And just the emotions and even the colors and stuff that I was seeing as I was thinking about it and what was happening was just, it's weird. It's not the norm. So if it's not the norm, you have to react differently to it. And why? Why? Because maybe that's the norm for them, but it's not the norm for me. So should I just be accepting or am I reacting of how I think it's different?
Yeah. When you noticed, you know, that the bucket was so big, okay? Did you notice anything else that was going on at the
No,
beach?
nothing at all. Everything else was just, like, I was thinking to myself, I'm not looking at the beach. I'm not walking anymore. I'm not looking at the sky. I'm not looking at the color of the water. All I am doing is focusing on that huge thing. Like
So
what,
what did that teach you in that moment?
It taught me that that I focus so much on maybe something that's out of the ordinary. And it was just taking over my whole entire experience of the enjoying the walk, enjoying the water, instead of like, and really what does it matter to me what that bucket looks like? It has nothing to do with me. I don't have the bucket with me. I'm not worrying about, if they're building a sandcastle or whatever. So why am I fixated on that? Why do I care what is like happening with them? Why can't I just focus on my enjoyment of being at the beach?
When you're focused on this bucket and you couldn't see anything else, it shut down your whole system.
Yeah, yeah. And I did not like it at all, at all.
Have you ever experienced that before? When you're in
Oh
a
my
scenario
goodness.
that's tough,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That produces
Yeah.
strong emotions, it's like it can shut you down and you no longer have the ability to tap into your whole system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too often, unfortunately, I hate to say, but it's true. Too often that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes. Jennifer, what about you?
My experience was totally different with the
Was
bucket.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
as it was getting bigger, I was like, oh, this is an adventure. Like, what are we gonna do with this bucket? Like, I was now involved with this bucket, like to see what we were doing. And then like when it got so big, I was like, oh my goodness, this bucket is now like a cave or something. You know how you make like snow igloos? And like, oh, what are we
Yeah.
doing with this bucket?
Yeah.
And but then when we went, so for me, it was an adventure, like, ooh, what is it? But
Yeah.
then it got really small. Then I realized that, oh, maybe that really large bucket just made me feel too small. And now I feel human size again. And like, I just picture like, okay, now we're going to make a teeny tiny castle. And like, we're just making all these little tiny things. Like I was involved with the bucket. Um, but then what I didn't like was when the seagulls got super loud. Cause when we were first walking on the beach, before you even mentioned seagulls, I was hearing them and I was hearing the waves. Like that's just like my happy, safe place, like on the beach. So I love just hearing those waves crash in and like your toes, like they change the sand a little bit when you press down and the
Yeah.
seagulls, when they got too loud, that annoyed me because it's like this is not a beach experience. Like they're just fucking annoying right now.
Yeah.
And then I had to like turn the volume back down. It's like, okay, now that's back to normal.
Yeah.
But the bucket I had an adventure with.
Yeah. That's so cool. I mean, so what's fascinating about this particular, building block of self-awareness, this exercise, is that you can really see how changing just one little, submodality in a scenario can drastically change how you think and feel about something, right? It could be a positive thing, like this is a fun adventure. Like, where is this taking me? This is so cool. I'm excited to explore, versus this is really annoying me and it's getting in my way and I'm so fixated on this that I can't think of anything else now, right? And it changes, what about when it got really, really, really dark?
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I guess living near the beach, for me, it was just a typical like, all right, rain's coming in, pack up. But at
Yeah,
first at first I was imagining, like, I love when I'm sitting on the beach and I see out on the horizon, you can see a storm coming in. Cause it looks like the clouds are like scraped down into the
Yeah.
water a little bit, like someone took a paintbrush and pulled a cloud down a little bit and then you just see it coming closer. So at first I was like picturing that and just how cool that is that we can see the rain from a distance and not be in it. And then I was like, as it was getting closer, I'm like, okay, time to pack up and leave the beach.
yeah, yeah,
Like it was typical Florida,
Yes.
South weather.
yeah. Okay, so we came up with like a hypothetical exercise and situation. Let's make this more realistic. So who wants to volunteer and be willing to go through this exercise with something that's actually going on in your life for real?
I mean, I'll do it. Sure. Let's
You'll
see.
do it?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So I want you to think about an emotional state that you have in a certain situation, and let's come up with a situation that's not pleasant.
Okay.
So first, think of the situation, and then think of the emotional state that you typically are in that situation. And once you
Okay.
identify it, give Jennifer and I some kind of context with it.
Okay. Well, I guess, and Jennifer, I think, as being a teacher and, Derice, you'll kind of understand this, but recently I had a situation with a student who I have a good relationship with. And, she was just being, and with other students, but she was really being disruptive. And I kept like, I was speaking to her and, kind of like, hey, just in general. And then I was not targeting her a little bit, but was, finally calling her name and say, please stop doing that, blah, 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 being, very disruptive. So once I kind of like the situation escalated a little bit more, I was, speaking to her and she was totally ignoring me. So I called security to have her removed from the room. And I was calm when it was happening, but I was like, I'm gonna, and then security finally came and she was like, hey, Mr. Walsh. And I just lost it on her. Like, he's
Like
not
it
your
was fun to
friend.
her, like it was a game.
I said to her, yeah, she was like, hey, and I said, he is not your friend. You are, and I was just, and I just lost it. Yeah.
Okay,
was-
so before we go into this perceptional position exercise,
Mhm.
okay, let's tap into some emotional intelligence right now.
Mhm.
Okay, let's look at some self-awareness.
Mhm.
So, what were you feeling? Let's actually name some emotions. Let's look at vocabulary. What were you feeling before you had to call security?
I think I was feeling hurt a little bit because I thought that she and I had a decent relationship and she was, she was totally ignoring what I was saying. And I was shocked that she was ignoring and just being, very disrespectful and not even acknowledging that I was speaking to her.
Okay, so you were hurt,
Mhm.
you were shocked. What else?
I was angry.
Angry?
I was, very unhappy. I was sad. I was just
Okay,
like,
unhappy, sad.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
all those like negative emotions that are, and just unknowing, and not understanding what was going on in this situation and why did it have to escalate to where it was, because
Okay,
I could feel the situation escalating and I was just questioning like, what the hell is going on? It was
so when
ridiculous.
it was escalating and you didn't know what was going on and where this was coming from, how did that feel?
It, that's a good question. I was unsure of what to do and how to handle the situation without it causing chaos in the entire room. And that, it's that whole adage that we go back to classroom management and, unsure myself, second guessing me as the adult versus a child.
How were you perceiving the other students that were witnessing the situation? How were you reflecting that on you?
you know, I felt that there was shock,
Mhm,
honestly, from them as to her behavior.
mhm.
And so I felt supported, honestly, by most of the kids in the room, which was nice. Um, you know, and just, you know, because you could see in their faces, like, you know, what is going on and why is she's just, I mean, and what happened was she started popping her gum, and I was just like, please stop doing that. And then I asked her to throw out her gum, and she totally refused to do what I needed her to do.
Interesting.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, so to me, you know, amongst other things, but at that point, that's what
Yeah.
it was. And I'm like, why? And I think they were the same thing, like, just throw out the gum. What do you know, why do we now all need to be disrupted? We were watching, like a short film about the topic that we were learning about. And it's like, why does this even need to happen? So I did
Yeah.
feel supported by them. And it's like, you know, they're looking at her like, Spirit, just do it. Like, what's wrong with you, in a way?
Okay, so let's take the bucket. She's the bucket. She's getting
Yeah.
bigger and bigger and
Sure
bigger
was.
and bigger, and you're
Yep.
feeling like, oh my God, getting
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
my control. What I hear you
yes,
saying is I feel out of control with this situation, right? And
yes.
so when you feel out of control, you had all of these emotions that were coming up for you. And it sounds like you had a little bit of fear of
Yeah,
what if I don't do the right thing? What if I don't handle this the right
mhm,
way? Right?
yes,
How is this
absolutely.
going to affect me as a teacher? How is this going to affect her as a student and all of the other students,
That's
right?
right.
Who
Yep,
are witnessing this, right? So there was pressure. It sounds like
yes,
you had a lot of pressure that was put
yes,
on
yes,
you. Okay. And you're seeing, you know, her as this bucket getting bigger and bigger and bigger as a threat. It's a threat
yes,
to you.
yep,
Okay. So your frame of mind is in that state, and that's totally okay. That makes complete sense to me that you would be in that state, right? Okay. What's interesting is when you called security and he arrived, her response was not what you predicted it was going to be, right? She was kind of acting like it wasn't a big deal and like, hey, what's up? Right? Okay. So we're going to explore all that later. Okay. But as we're looking at emotional intelligence, right? We're getting intelligent right now about your emotions in that moment. We're practicing self-awareness.
mhm,
So when that happened, then all of a sudden you said it's like you had rage, right? It was like something just snapped
yep.
with you in that moment. What was going on?
Well, I think there's a few things. I feel like, you know, I feel that some of our security guards just don't take their job seriously, and they're just trying to placate these kids and be friends with them. And it's like, really, you know, you're the adult here. So that aggravated me, that she felt that she could do that with him, and he just sat there and didn't say anything. I'm like, you know, whatever. So that was happening. And
So
then
hold on,
also,
let's stop for a second.
yep.
Did that feel like a betrayal?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
As a
we're
colleague, as an adult to an adult, in this
yes,
situation, when I have called to have a child removed from security, there's a reason that I'm calling. And so
yes.
you better be there. He should have shut it down. I shouldn't have had to shut that down.
Okay.
And so
So you
that's a big,
felt
that's a big
betrayed
difference.
by
Yes,
another
absolutely.
adult. You also felt like you weren't supported, like he
Yes,
didn't have your back,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So then
Yep.
that made you feel dismissed, maybe
Yeah, yeah.
not taken seriously.
Right, right. So then I felt like I had to be, you know, like this tough guy to be like, hell no, that's not how you're going to react. I am kicking you out of this room because you're being so disrespectful, not just to me, but to everybody else in the room. And, you know, you
Yeah.
just think it's a joke. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to be consequence for this, and, you know, you need to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. Okay. So let's practice our new exercise. Okay. I want you to close your eyes, and Jennifer, you don't have to close your eyes for this.
Okay.
I want you to close your eyes. All right. And I want you to, if it's okay, if you can give me her name or make up a name.
Spirit. Her name is
Spirit.
Spirit.
Okay. Okay. I just have to identify her. Okay. I want you to imagine Spirit sitting at her desk. you guys are watching this film
Yeah,
and you're noticing that she's not really paying attention. And you're noticing that she kind of has this, content for what it is that you are trying to accomplish in the classroom. And you bring it to her attention. And I just want you to notice that when you bring it to her attention, her head gets bigger. And as it gets bigger, you notice her facial expression. And she's just kind of showing you that she thinks it's funny that you're reacting. So I want you to notice this kind of smirk on her face. And now I want you to enlarge that smirk. And enlarge it again. And again. And keep enlarging her face and this smirk on her face. It's so big, you can't see the students sitting behind her. It's taking up that much space in the room. And I just want you to notice what's happening for you, what you're feeling, what you're noticing.
yeah. I mean, I'm again just noticing the focus on her and not the
Keep
other
your eyes
kids
closed.
per se.
I don't want you to lose. I
sorry.
want you to stay. That's okay.
Sorry.
Keep
Yeah,
in the
so-
moment. Yep.
Right. So all I'm seeing is her and not really maybe observing everything that is going on, and it's just focus and all my attention is going on to her.
So I want you to notice what's going on with you in this moment, right? Her face she's so big. The smirk on her face is
Yeah.
like gigantic. Okay.
Yeah. So I am,
Happening
you
for
know,
you.
it's like I'm having an internal battle with myself. How am
Okay.
I going to respond to this? What is going to be the appropriateness? Because again, in the past, I have been very reactionary. And I will say, I was proud of myself because I was very calm speaking to her and saying, I need you to throw the gum out.
Okay. So before we get to that though,
Mhm.
self-awareness, right? We have to, the more states you become aware of, the more choice you have.
Okay, I see. So,
Okay.
I was angry. I was angry.
Angry.
I was, confused.
Yeah.
I was, feeling very disrespected.
Mhm.
It was like just the angst that was going on with me. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do next?
Okay. What
How
are you physically feeling now?
I was like, like clenching my teeth and like, I was
Okay.
like, all tight and, like,
Tight.
yeah, it was
Yes.
horrible. It was horrible.
So
It was horrible.
is it like your whole body just clenched
Yes,
up?
absolutely. Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. Did you feel any kind of heat in your body? Like, do you feel like your body was maybe flushed because of this anger?
I'm sure it was because, I think it's almost like an embarrassment too,
Yeah.
that a 13-year-old can have such control over me.
Ah. Okay. Now we're
And
getting somewhere.
right. And how,
Yes.
like, how am I allowing this child to have such an effect on me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what I want you to imagine is I want you to imagine that big head with that enormous smirk on her face. I want you to change the smirk to a face that is apologetic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just imagine that she's showing you a facial expression where she's sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I want you to imagine now her head is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And now it's back to a normal size. Now I want you to imagine you. I want you to imagine this anger. Maybe it's a color red. Look at whatever the color is that you see taking up space in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to make it really bright. And I want you to see how it's spreading. Like literally see the light, this color that is spreading in your body. Now I want you to see that this color is spreading outside of your body. and it's like bleeding out. And now it's on the walls in your classroom. It's covering up everything on your walls. Now it's going on top of the ceiling and the floor. It's crouching its way to your feet. And I want you to imagine that you just feel like you're about to explode. Like the pressure is so intense that this is about to explode. And I want you to notice how you're feeling and what is happening. You don't need to tell us, just you notice it. Notice what emotions come up, name them. In your mind, just name them, list them off. And then from here, what I want you to notice next is I want you to notice this color that it is and change the color to a color that gives you peace and serenity and calm. And this color is taking over the red. And just seeing that color is giving you some peace. And now notice that that color that spread to the ceiling and the floor is retracting. And it's getting smaller and smaller. It's no longer covering the ceiling or the walls or the floor, but it's just outside of your body. And as you notice that, you're feeling more and more in control. And now it's in your body. And as that color surrounds just your body, I want you to notice how that feels. And what emotions come to mind. And you can name them in your mind. Notice your breath. Notice that you're able to relax. This clenching feeling has gone away. It's like it's just completely melted away. And you feel completely relaxed in the moment. And now that you're relaxed, you're listening, and the classroom is pretty quiet. And you're noticing that by it being quiet, there seems to be order. And because you're in this frame of mind where you're at peace, and you're calm, and you're relaxed, when you look at Spirit, how do you see her differently? Are you still seeing a rebellious student, or are you able to tap into your inner resources and you have a different set of knowledge that maybe is curious as to why she's behaving this way, rather than being angry, wondering, kind of like Jennifer. She looked at the buck that got so big and got curious and playful with it. You know, this new mindset that you have is, this is really interesting. I would love to have a conversation with her and see what's going on. I mean, kind of impressive that she could hold such confidence in front of me, who I'm an authoritative figure. I wonder if she's trying to step into her power. I wonder if she's trying to learn how to assert herself. Like there's something going on, and man, that was really hard for me to do as a teenager. Somehow this is actually quite remarkable. And I cannot wait to maybe get inside her head if she'll let me and ask her some questions. And now you look at the guard who comes in, and because you have this new frame of mind, this curiosity and this peace, you're not frustrated. you're just so grateful that you're a teacher because, wow, who knows how you can impact these students' lives. And as you continue with that mindset, guard comes in and you see how he's trying to, kind of be friendly with her. And you start to get curious with that too. And you wonder, I don't know what his story is. Maybe he didn't have an adult figure in his life that supported him. Maybe everybody was a dictator to him and no one was curious about why he was behaving the way he was. So maybe he sees her and maybe he's reacting this way because maybe there's a trigger inside of him going on. And this is why he's behaving the way he is, and it has nothing to do with me. And so he leaves the spirit and they walk out. And as they leave and you look to the class and you think, okay, well, that was interesting. This is going to be fun for me to explore later with her. Now you have a whole classroom full of students who are ready to learn. And you're able to teach them from a place of peace. You didn't have to get respect for them because you respect yourself. Okay, open your eyes.
Ooh.
How did that experience feel?
I mean, much better, but it also, it brings just that curiosity to me that in those split seconds, how, I need to be better in being able to evaluate those situations. And it's difficult. It really, like I was saying, I was proud of myself because I calmly walked over and I was not yelling at her. And for me, to be honest, I have to say that's a huge change with how I used to be.
Yeah.
I would have right away. And so
Normally you would snap right away.
oh, right away. But like, as we were going through that, I was thinking to myself, like I didn't really have to call security. I could have brought her out into the hallway and I could have continued, but it was just for me, it was kind of that this is what I have to do. I just have to remove her from the room. And I was very calm with it. I really was. And then when it was such a trigger for me for her to just be, very dismissive about the fact. That's how I felt at the time.
Yeah.
Like you said, unsupported and everything. And I never really thought about it that way as being unsupported by my colleague.
Yeah.
That sucks. That sucks,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, what you went through makes sense and how you felt, and even your, blooded triggered response, makes sense. But do you see how powerful our mindset and our
Oh my God,
self-awareness is, and how it literally dictates what happens next?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did have a conversation with her the next day. We spoke more about it, but it was just, I was just so shocked and I really was hurt because I feel that she and I have a good relationship. And I think it brings me back to when I was a teenager and, and how I felt and, and being in school. And it's just, and I hate that it does that to me, but it kind of, it does, it has those triggers. So it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's hard to, do this in real time without practicing it beforehand, right? So if someone is in sports and, they're in basketball and there was a foul and they're there to do the free throws. If they don't practice the free throws outside of the game, most likely in the moment, they're going to have that pressure. They're going to feel like everybody's watching them. They're going to have fear. What if I don't make it and I'm going to disappoint my teammates, right? And so most likely they're not going to perform as well.
Right.
But if they are on the courts, maybe every day, practicing and practicing and practicing those free throws, when that opportunity presents itself, they're way more likely to perform and do better, right? So how can you practice, this perceptual position exercise where you change just the different, submodalities, right? The auditory, the sight, right? And the feelings, the kinesthetic. Like, how can you practice this before you actually are in a situation?
Well, you know what, I think, I have been, I don't know how, kind of to describe it, but I think, in the past year and a half or so where I've been doing more mindfulness stuff, I've been doing more meditation. I, I look at myself and I just say, why do you have to be so reactionary? Like,
Mhm.
this is, it's not you, or it's not, stop thinking about past behavior, stop thinking about, oh, I'm always reactionary. And really look and say, this is a teenager. This is a 13-year-old, or 14-year-old child, who has, who knows what's going on at home. And so I really have been, looking at that more so over the past, about year and a half to 2 years. So I do that a lot more than I used to. And I do try to, in that time, think about, okay, what are they going through? And also, my perception and their perception is very different. And then it's the reality, it's like he said, she said, and then what really happened.
Yeah.
So it's, when you're sitting in a room of 28 kids and, like you kind of hear things, and and possibly I got it wrong. I don't know. She was, like a little shady about it, but it's just here. This is what this is what I'm perceiving. And it's not always 100% true. And I have to remember that is just my point of view at the time. And my point of view is not always, reality.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Hmm.
Jennifer, what were your thoughts? What did you think?
Well, when she was like describing the situation and how she was feeling, like I immediately went to like, you feel let down,
Yeah.
especially like, because I know I used to teach 6th grade, and I know middle schoolers are like, it's a whole different ball game, like, because they're going through all those changes. And when you do create a bond, especially in a school where it's like, some parents really aren't so involved and, things like that, it's like for you to create a bond with a student, it's very special, and like, it's a big deal. So I was feeling let down for you, like you must have felt left down when she
Yeah.
was disregarding anything you were saying to her. Whereas like if it was another student that you didn't have the relationship with, it would have just been like, just throw the gum out already, but like with her, more emotion set in because you have the relationship. And then for this guy to come in and be like, her buddy, that was just like to top it all off.
Right, it was like the cherry. But you're right. I never thought about it that way. That, yeah, if it probably was some other kid, I'd be like, just throw the damn piece of gum out
Yeah,
almost.
but there was like
Yeah.
emotion attached with
Yeah.
her. And it's like, as much as you felt angry, you feel disappointed and let down.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
you're gonna do that to me?
Right. Right.
Like, yeah.
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 Thank you for that. That was, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, one thing you could do is you could practice this and, come up with another scenario in your mind. Like, when I came up with the beach, right? I just played along with it, in the moment. I was like, okay, I'm going to change this now, and I'm going to change that now. Like that wasn't something I came up with ahead of time. In the moment, I was like, okay, now I'm going to imagine there's amplifiers everywhere now with the seagulls, right? Like, you just want to play with it. But here's the important thing with this exercise is you only want to change one submodality at a time.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you're going to focus on changing what you see, right, your visual, then only focus on just that, only change that, and see how it feels. Okay. And what's coming up for you. When you're done with that, then you move on to the next submodality and say, okay, I'm going to focus on auditory now, right? Then make it loud. I'm going to make it really soft. What do I hear? What do I notice? And then after that, even though I changed another sight, which was like the sky, right? But I was focusing mainly on the feeling, right? The feeling that you were getting, also from that. But and it could have been the stand too. We could have made the stand super hot, right? At first it was like, oh, this is so comfortable. I feel this, the stand on my feet, and all of a sudden we could make it so hot that it's like walking on coals and you're like on fire, right? You know what I mean? So you can play around with that. But what's important is the reason why you do this is because this is what increases your self-awareness.
Mhm.
And in order to increase your self-awareness, that is going to help you understand what your inner experience is, what's really going on with you. And when you understand your inner experience, then you understand what your hidden motivations are all about.
Hmm.
Okay. And then when you understand what your hidden motivations are, then you have emotional intelligence. Then you know how, okay, I'm in control. Now I can see all my options. I can either look at it this way and choose to believe that this is reality, this is the experience, or I can choose to have a different perception of it. And if I choose to have this perception, how does this change how I'm going to react to the situation? But if you're, if you have a quiet moment in your home, you may say, you know what, instead of turning on a TV show right now, I'm going to practice this perceptual positioning exercise. And you come up with a scenario, maybe in your classroom, change it up a little bit. And how would I respond? How would I react? What's going on for me? So that when it actually happens again, you're like, oh yeah, I've been here before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, any questions?
No, that was good.
No. Interesting exercise, right? A different tool to use in your toolbox of the
Yeah,
hundreds
sure.
of NLP techniques that are out there.
That was good. That was
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Ah.
Well, this was fun. I thank you, Kelly, for honestly, bringing
thank
up
you.
a
Yeah.
real situation and being so open and real about what it was doing to you. And, it helps. It helps to be able to normalize it, but also figure out how to put this in real
Yes.
practical terms.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's, like I was saying before, it's almost like a learned behavior. And so you have to learn how to, okay, we go to school to become a teacher, but they don't give you all these scenarios. You have no
Yeah.
idea. But what your experience is going to be to help. And you're just like, okay, I'm thrown in with 28 kids. What am I going to do? So
Yeah. They
Yeah.
don't
No,
teach you
that's good. Thank you.
tools. They don't tell you all the different ways you can cope with them.
No,
The
absolutely not.
challenges of being a teacher.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And dealing
Yeah.
with kids, right? I mean, that as a
Yes.
parent, dealing with kids, it's like, oh my God, it's,
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that and learned and got something out of it.
Yeah, thank you. That
Yeah.
was great.
All right. So, the next one I think is on the 23rd.
Excellent.
And don't miss that one. That one's going to be great. This is about unshakable worth and how to really identify your worth.
Nice.
Oh boy.
I can't wait to teach that one. That's one of my favorite ones.
Awesome.
So,
Good.
okay. Well,
All
enjoy
right.
the rest of your night, and I hope you have a
Thank
really
you.
great day at school tomorrow.
Absolutely. We both
With
will. I
Sarah and
feel it.
everybody
I
else.
feel it.
Oh, I'm still off this week. I have
Oh my God, that's right.
I have
Ah,
18 days off.
and I hate you
Oh.
guys in Florida.
Sorry.
No,
My
that's right.
next day was the 20th, and I don't go back till the 8th. So it's 18 full days that I'm
Oh
just
my God. And now, so my brother lives in Tampa. So do you have this, Jenny, where, so they have the 2 weeks and they don't go back on Monday, they go back on Tuesday because on Monday it's a teacher planning day?
Mhm.
Oh my God, whenever my niece Olivia, she's gonna be 15 in a few days, whenever she tells me, I'm like, oh my God, I need a teacher planning day. So, well, good for you. Listen, we have the February break off that you guys don't have. So it all
True.
evens out,
That's true. That's
but
And
true.
that's
Kelly,
nice.
you
Well,
guys have amazing benefits as
oh my
teachers
God,
that
listen,
Florida does not have.
no, we do.
100%.
We do. I get, I make a good salary. We have, so and again,
I used to teach in New Jersey. So
okay,
yeah,
so you,
it was
right.
I got paid so well. My benefits were fucking amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it's
I know.
it's you
Yeah.
gotta like what you're doing to do it.
Right. And I come from the business world. So I tell, my fellow teachers, I go, you guys, what do you do complaining? We get all this. I mean, my first job out of college, I had a week off, one week, and I had to figure out, how am I going to do it? I said, stop your belly aching. You're making good money. You work 10 months, 10 months, shut the F up is what I want to say to them, And they're like, so. anyway, so, well, enjoy your time off.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah,
All
well
right.
deserved.
Have
All
a
right,
good
thanks.
night, guys.
Have a
Bye.
great
All
night.
right, bye,
All right,
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, you too.